Alright guys, so you can see I have the auto start stop warning light. You can also see the vehicle's running and I'm charging just fine. Let me turn it off and then put it on run. And we're sitting at 12.7 volts. Let's start it back up. Dropped down to 11.3 when we started. Start stop unavailable, service start stop system. Charging good there. So what I see happening with this, since I don't have a check engine light or any other lights to go with it, is I think my auxiliary battery is going out. And let's stop this again. But I have an auxiliary battery coming. I didn't go with the Mopar, I went with the cheaper battery. Hopefully that's not going to bite me in the butt, but I could buy 3 or 4 of them for what the Mopar battery cost. So it's going to be hot today. I'm going to go ahead and pull the auxiliary battery out, and then whenever the new battery comes in, we'll install it. I'm not replacing the main battery right now, but I am planning on replacing it soon because it's probably 5 years old. Now I've already been in here, so I've already got this front piece pulled up. Now I'm going to pull the seat all the way forward and up. Alright, now you're going to see a mess in the back here, because I have already been back here testing. I was testing the resting voltage. I was testing the battery when a load was put to it. And what would happen is when I put this on there, it would say it was good. The needle would be in the green. But when I would add the load to it, it would go down to weak. So it just telling me that battery's starting to go bad. So let's see if I can pull this out of the way, get this out of here. Now, like I said, I've got a mess down here because I have a power box that has all my auxiliary stuff hooked to it. My lights, I think I've got I've got 2 light bars and then 2 different sets of lights. So like that's 4 different light systems hooked up to that. And it works good down there. And I know there's not a lot of light down here, but all these wires most people aren't going to have in their vehicle. But when I pull this box up and set this box kind of out of the way, I'll be able to work some of these wires out of my way. But I'm going to disconnect the vent hose. I'm going to disconnect the strap that holds this battery in. I'm going to disconnect the positive cable, and I'm going to put a glove or something over it to where it can't accidentally touch anything. Then I'm going to disconnect the ground cable, and I'll have to disconnect the breather hose out of the battery too, the small battery, and I'll pull it out, and then it'll be ready for the new one to go in. There's not a lot of room in here, so I'm not going to film me taking it out, but It's pretty straightforward. So I've got the hot wire off of the battery, and I just put a rubber glove over it, and I tied it off with a cable tie. It's just a little extra precaution so that cable don't short out on anything. Now I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the ground cable, which is underneath all these wires right here, and I'll remove that cable. So I have my ground cable off the battery post, and I zip tied it to this seat rail just to hold it up out of the way. And I said y'all aren't going to have to mess with all these wires, but while I've got this apart, I am going to zip tie these together and try to make this a little bit nicer. And I said you have to pull these vents out. That just pops in. I'll pull it out of the small battery when I get it loose, but I have to get down in there with a ratchet and extension and remove that nut down there off the strap. And then once that's removed, it's ready to come out. So I used a 10mm deep socket with an extension and ratchet to get down there to get that strap off. And then I used, found this old cheap 13. I've got a better wrench, but I used this 13 to take the battery cable nuts off, and being a short wrench was kind of good. And that was all as far as tools that you're going to need. And I said I did use a zip tie to zip tie this cable up out of the way, and then I wrapped that one down there with a rubber glove, and then put a table tie around it to make sure it don't touch nothing. But now we're ready to pull this strap out of there, but I'm gonna have to use both hands because I need to work it around my wires, and then we'll be able to disconnect the back of the breather line and pull that battery out of there. Okay, so I've got that little auxiliary battery hooked up to my tester, and you can see that it's in the green. The needle's in the green. But when we push the load, it should go down in the weak. See, it's down into the weak. You go for about just a few seconds, it goes straight to the weak. And I think that that's what the vehicle is reading. When you crank it, it's reading that weak voltage on this battery, and that's enough to trip that light on and disable the start stop. So I feel pretty confident that this battery is just on its way out, because when you push that load test, it should stay in the green instead of going into the weak. I mean, it's just barely in the green. And maybe I'm reading this wrong, but in my mind, we have a bad battery. So I was looking at this battery, and you can see the manufacturer's date right there. There's a 21, so my Jeep is a 2021. It looks like this was 03 of 21 manufactured. So we're looking at, this is past 03 of 26. So you're looking at over 5 years old on this battery. So it did a pretty good job. I mean, I would say it's in the max of its life. So here's our new battery. I've already started taking it out of the package. AMG auxiliary battery, 12 volt, 200 cranking amps, just like the original. Let me pull it out of the box. So as you can see here, the original battery has these little posts, and this battery came with these little bolts. So you can pull these out and you could put them in there. I'm not sure if I'm going to use those posts. I may just use these little bolts. But let me hook the tester to it and see what kind of reading we get on it. Okay, you can see I've got the cables hooked up to the battery on my tester, and it's good and charged. Now let's put a load, and if you remember, on my battery I have now, I know this is upside down, but my needle fell way over here just in the yellow. This is 200 code cranking amps, so this 200 down here is what we're paying attention to, and I was right on that line in the yellow. Let's see if this one does the same thing. Okay, as you saw on that, it actually stayed in the green. So this one is holding more load than the Mopar battery was. Now here's the deal. This battery is still taking a charge with my battery tester here, or my battery charger. It will eventually put it in the green, and this says that that battery is good. The only thing I figure is that one's dropping enough under load that it's setting off the light. And as you saw, this one did stay in the green, so we're going to put it in and see if maybe that turns our light off. It's hard to believe that just that much difference would matter, but we're going to find out. Okay, so I have my strap holding the battery back on. I have my positive cable back on. I put the red positive on first, then I put the ground cable on, and I plugged in my breather line into both batteries, so everything's back together. I'm gonna go through my spaghetti of wires here and zip tie them together, try to make them look nicer and neat, and then everything has to get put in this open area that's down here. And it'll be out of sight and out of mind, but I do want to make it look better than what it is. I already started zip tying some of these wires together. Okay, so I've seen some videos that say after you change these batteries, you have to drive it for a while for the light to reset. I've seen a video to where as soon as he turned it on, the light was off. So let's just see. Cranked right up. And there's my light back. So that battery, we're either gonna have to drive it a while and let the system set back, or that battery didn't fix my problem. So time will tell. The only other thing I can do is test my big battery and the little sensor that's on the cables. Alright, so I've got everything reinstalled. I tied up some of these auxiliary wires and stuff that I have in here and try to get a little more organized. There's fuses in here, so I have to be able to pull this box out to access fuses in case I blow a fuse or something. So I can just pull it out, and then I try to, my main breaker, you can see it way up there. I can still get to it if I need to reset that switch. My relays are down underneath that switch. So, you know, it's just a bunch of stuff I have on here that most people aren't going to have. And I put a piece of foam here, make sure no wires touch that hot wire there. I did take this back loose, and I saw a little bit of corrosion down here, so I cleaned this cable off. And this is the ground on the main battery. I had the power cable off of this little battery, and I had this ground off to put this battery in. So I just went ahead and pulled that ground completely off and cleaned everything and put it back on, got this battery back in there, straightened out some of these wires, and the light on my dash is now gone. So we're back in the vehicle, and my passenger doors are open. You can see I've got good voltage there. There's no light coming up on the dash. That's on because my doors are open on the passenger side. But no lights, and I thought I would have to retrain my automatic windows and sunroof, but I did not have to. Let's see, media. Looks like my channels are all still there. So undoubtedly it didn't completely power down or something. I don't know. You know, I did still have the main battery hot wire connected. But I have a feeling when I took that ground off of both batteries, it reset something. Or it's just reading true voltage now and it turned itself off. I don't know which. But it looks like everything's good, and we're going to drive it for, well, until we get another lights, because I figure the next thing to go is going to be the main battery. But right now I'm still running the original factory Mopar main battery, and then that little battery that I bought, the cheaper battery, and we'll see how long it lasts. One thing I did notice is I tried recharging my Mopar little auxiliary 14 battery, and the first time I charged it, it did go to a green light, and I haven't used it for anything, and I just hooked the charger back up to it, and it's in a state of charge again, and it's been charging for a while, so that don't sound right to me. If it's already charged, it shouldn't have took any time before it hit the green light and said it was charged already. So that just reconfirms to me that that auxiliary battery was bad. But hopefully we're all good to go.